what sort of situation? Big up, big up. I don't know if you guys, if I dipped out there for a second, but the tapping up issue allegations, the possible problems, it's really ridiculous in what's going on right now with Dan Ashworth. How could he do that? You know what I mean? It's one of those rookie mistakes, CCing your old account in conversations with Omar Barada, putting Man United in a situation where we can be possibly exploited by the authorities, and you know how they do when it comes to Man United. They have to keep us at the perfect standard. It's a problem, guys. What are we thinking? Let's get right into some of these stories. I'm going to read this article about Dan Ashworth here for you guys really quickly. Keep the information concise. I'm not going to take up your midday time. I know you guys are, trying to enjoy your day, but it's Manchester United. You can't always have a day that's like just a quiet day, guys. You know what I mean? Dan Ashworth to argue he was sacked by Newcastle in United in bid to force Man United move. You know what I mean? The yearly summer drama at Manchester United came early again. It doesn't involve the players this time. It involves Dan Ashworth just days after it emerged that he was found liaising with Omar Barada before he was given permission to speak with Man United. What a twist in the tale, and it has arrived just a bit early before the window opens, 10 to 12 days before, to be exact. And the Telegraph reports that Dan Ashworth will now arrive at the arbitration talks with a new angle, saying he isn't even on gardening leave. Instead, he'll argue that Newcastle have already sacked him, as in him, from his understanding of the situation, he was not asked to formally write his letter of resignation. In legalese, that pretty much means that Newcastle sacked Ashworth. They can't ask for compensation for an employee who's no longer on their books. Had Ashworth asked to step down, as was reported earlier, then Newcastle will be within their rights to place him on gardening leave and demand compensation, even of his whole contract. Newcastle are reported to be astounded at Ashworth's effort to get out of his contract that way and are reportedly determined to fight it during the hearing. However, there may be more to this matter than in the public eye. If Ashworth's leaked emails were legit and he was in contact with United before he was even put on gardening leave, Newcastle would have a watertight case of tapping up. Still, the report states that Newcastle will first attempt to sit down with United and try to hash out an increased compensation. An increased compensation. This is crazy. What are we going to pay for this guy? 10, 20, 30 million now? In your sense, Sir Jim Ratcliffe might feel they have a strong case, as even after the emails emerged, Newcastle first priority is to get more money for Ashworth. Meanwhile, the executive himself remains on gardening leave and the hearing is supposedly private, so this might just be a case of two sides wanting to win a war of optics. Ultimately, it's a matter of when and if not Ashworth joins United, but Sir Jim would take solace from the fact that for once, United are not being held to ransom in the market, even if the person involved is not a player. Guys, what are your thoughts? Big up to you, Stephanie Griffith. Hope you're doing well. And big, much respect to you, GB. Good morning, my brother. How are you doing today? Hope you are well. I'm going to get right into this other article, really short and sweet, just a prelude to some of the scouting reports that I'm going to be presenting to you guys tomorrow. And this article comes to you and talks about the four-man shortlist for depleted positions, including two England stars who could feature at Euro 2024. And as you can see in the picture, there's Mark Guehi, and I think he's going to be one of the targets because it's going to be a very cost-effective transfer. Central defenders are set to take pole position on top of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's transfer shortlist ahead of the first window as Manchester United co-owner. Over the past 9 months, one of Eric Ten Hag's squad that debilitating injury crisis has hit the hardest is the defense, so much so that it's led Casemiro having to operate well out of his comfort zone by deputizing at centre-half. Rafael Varane, Johnny Evans and Lisandro Martinez have only just returned from their respective layoffs. It remains to be seen which partnership the manager will opt to deploy between Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Diogo Dalot in Saturday's FA Cup final, with Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof still on the sideline. Experienced duo Varane and Evans will be departing Old Trafford in June when their contracts expire, meaning replacements must be sought to bolster the already depleted position. United's four-man shortlist as such will feature the likes of Jared Branthwaite. He's one of the names heavily linked with the Reds throughout his outstanding term with Everton, in which he's played an integral role in keeping the Toffees in the top flight amidst two separate point deductions. And as you also know, Everton will be reluctant to part ways with their highly rated talent, but United plan to test their resolve with a offer in the region of £55 million. Wow, that's an astounding figure. Should they have no luck in their pursuit, MarkN, 23, is viewed as an alternative to the 21-year-old, although he's valued closer to £65 million by Crystal Palace. Both players have been named in the Gareth Southgate's provisional Euro squad, and so assuming they make the cut for the tournament, any negotiations will be likely to be hold on till they return from Germany. Jean-Claire Todibo is also owned by Nice, and Fulham's Tosin Aredabayo, who becomes a free agent in June, are also among the United options. Guys, I'm just talking about those four centre-backs for now. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments, guys. The first article is quite vague. Yeah, they didn't really talk too much about what happened, but a little bit of, excuse me, an explanation on what went on with Dan Ashworth. It was reported that, there was contact made between Omar Barada and himself before the point on which Newcastle gave him permission to openly speak to Man United about the contractual move and switch to Old Trafford. So if that is true, then it could be a situation of possible tapping up, as well as there could be some, drawbacks or blowbacks to Manchester United, because tapping up is not something that is allowed in any league under FIFA regulations. So it's a possible issue. Dan Ashworth says that he has not been, placed on guardian leave. He was sacked and then placed on guardian leave. So it's basically he's going to go to arbitration court. This meeting should be happening in the next week, where it's a private matter. It's basically a civil case between him and Newcastle, and they're going to hash out the circumstances of whether he was put on garden leave or he was fired before, because as he said, he was not able to tender or asked to tender his resignation. So that means he was probably fired already, which would then make him a free agent and easily able to come into United without having to pay any compensation to Newcastle United. At the same time, if Newcastle has proved that he was on gardening leave and he was not, allowed to speak to anyone, and he was speaking to Omar Barada, then it's possible tapping up and we will be in a problem. It can't be both. It has to be either or. Exactly what you're saying there, GB. I totally agree. It has to be one of the other. It cannot be both. He has to either be fired or was not. And we will find out that information very soon. But I would just give my rough opinion on Dan Ashworth. I think he's a good sporting director, a good DOF. I think he's done a good job across England. But I cannot act like if we're in the Matrix and he is Neo, because in my opinion, he's not the one. And I'll be honest and upfront with that. And I'm not sure anyone might disagree, but I'm saying if we can get a very, very high quality DOF, whether it's Dan Ashworth or it's Dougie Freeman, or we go back and somehow convince Ralph Ragnick to come back as DOF, or we get someone along the lines of that quality, that has done things maybe at another club somewhere, or someone who's new in the last 5-10 years has been doing a very good, consistently good job, let's say an 8 out of 10, we can get that guy into our club and it's going to work well for us. And the understanding that I have and the reasoning behind that is because we are Manchester United. We already have that pull from the big history and all the titles we've won. We are the biggest team in England. That's another pull. So if we get a guy who's actually doing can do, equipped to do an amazing job, then, and it's very creative, then it shouldn't matter if it's Dan Ashworth or not. And I think that for once, Manchester United should stick to the policy where we're not going to be held to ransom. We should just walk away from the deal entirely and speak to someone else. I don't think we could be any worse if anyone that we are going to get is going to be better by 5 to 10 times already than what we already had before in John Murtaugh and before him. You know what I mean? So, guys, your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Yeah, get Ragnick back. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure we can convince him. You know, if we have to send Mitchell van der Gaag to coach Austria, then we're gonna have to send Mitchell van der Gaag. I think it's one of those things where everyone would agree with me that we could make that compensation because Ralph Rangnick would be a G. The guy is a brilliant man. He's built a lot of top clubs. He knows exactly what to do, and he's basically like the grandfather of the style of play that we are playing. So he would know exactly what type of players it would suit it well and best, in my opinion. And if you go back to 2022, when he was in the January window and he called for certain players, all of those players are in top clubs now and they were top purchases, and we could have get them all for less than $50 million. He just wanted 60 million, guys. Just remember that. Ralph Ragnick only wanted $60 million, and he was getting Nkunku, Gavardiol, he was getting Diaz, he was getting Enzo Fernandez, he was going to also get, likes of Caicedo and he was doing all that for 60 million. Just imagine how crazy that sounds right now when we know the prices that some of these players went for in the last window or the window before, guys. It's insane. No, GB, it was the other way around. I believe it was, it was said that, he was in conversation with Barada. Barada was already named the CEO of Man United at that time. And apparently they were emailing and having conversations in an email. And one of those emails, Ashworth CC'd his Newcastle account that he had when he was working at Newcastle. He CC'd himself there. So Newcastle, the IT department, apparently they found the emails allegedly that has a conversation with Omar Barada trying to find out details of what would it take to get him to move across to Manchester United. Crazy stuff, bro. Crazy stuff. But guys, it's midday. And it's about to be 4 p.m. I know a lot of you are about to get off work, so I hope you're having a great day so far. It could have been just a regular, average, normal day, but it's Manchester United, so there's always going to be some breaking news at some point. You know what I'm saying? So, guys, get in the comments. I know that 24 of you are watching mostly on X. Don't forget to smash a like, give a like, retweet, smash a like on the post on X. That helps the channel grow, guys. I'm trying to get to 500 subs by the end of this month, possibly. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there. Been stuck on 195 for the longest while. It would be so nice if you could help me and, come in, smash a like and subscribe and help my channel grow. It would be immensely, and I would be really grateful if you guys could help me out with that, And not to say too much again, guys, I'm just going to stress on the point that, it's a new dawn and a new day, and with a structure coming in, as long as the guy coming in is better than what we have and is shown and proven to be capable in his task over his career, I don't think it needs to be a specific guy. I mean, it's not as great of a deal as the manager that we have at the club or the owners or, the specific players that are coming in. I think it's one of those things where, someone upcoming could be that guy. He could be the next great Tiki or one of those amazing, legendary sporting directors who did amazing jobs wherever they went. You know what I mean? The world is round, and there are lots of new talent coming into the industry, lots of new people doing things at smaller clubs, other clubs across Europe that have been silently doing amazing jobs. Maybe tomorrow morning I will do a stream and I'll bring to you guys maybe 5 or 10, like sporting directors from around Europe that have been doing an amazing job silently that not everyone is taking notice to, because at the end of the day, I feel like we're all caught up with the term best in class. And for me, it shouldn't really be best in class. It should be one of the best at their job at that current post in their track record across the the time they've been doing their job. At the end of the day, best in class for me, if I have to say the category, that the type of DOF that would fall in there, he had to have signed someone who's won a World Cup, won the Champions League, won the league, the domestic league, all at the club that he signed him for. That has to be where the best in class comes from. And I'm not sure if Dan Ashworth has signed any players like that. Apparently, it was Barada who initiated the contact, because at that point, I think Barada was shopping around for DOFs or trying to accomplish the task of Sir Jim Ratcliffe on who he probably preferred. At the end of the day, it's it's not looking good, but that's if they prove that that's true and the situation is what it is. Because they're already trying to say that they're going to try to increase what their compensation demands for Dan Ashworth, and we already knew it was somewhere in the region of 15 million pounds. So imagine if they want 25, 30 million for Dan Ashworth. Are we willing to pay that, guys? I don't think that it makes any sense to go spend, 15 to 20 million on a DOF, guys. I think that makes no sense. I think, and that doesn't have anything to do with Dan Ashworth's wages. That's just his compensation. That's just Newcastle's compensation for losing him. It's very muddled. It's very muddled, GB. It's uninteresting, to be fair, and in my honest opinion, I feel like we don't need that energy right now. You know what I mean? What we need is a clear direction. We need someone who can come in right now and start doing the job, and no problem. Yeah, only time will tell. Because like I said this morning when I was on the Reckless show with KG and the guys, I was like, go get Dougie Freeman. Dougie Freeman turned down Newcastle already. You know what I mean? So what if you go talk to Dougie Freeman and say, yo, want to come here? And he says yes. And that's what, £2 million, £3 million? And we're in the money. You know what I mean? Dougie Freeman is a pretty good guy, and everyone should know who Dougie Freeman is. He's been doing a great job across some of the lower teams in the Premier League as well, across England. He's been doing a good job. You know what I mean? So we should stay away from the topic like this guy is the one, the ultimate, the only choice, the guy with the golden goose that's gonna lay the golden egg. I think that's not the case with Omar Barada. I think he's pretty good at his job, but I'm just saying to everyone that it could be someone else. You know what I mean? There are guys just as good as him around Europe. Does it have to be Dan Ashworth? No, in my opinion. So big up to all of you joining. Thank you so much for being here. It's just a short stream to talk about the Dan Ashworth thing. If you guys have any differing opinions, if you think I'm mudded and I'm whack, drop it in the comments. Let me know your thinking. I still will reply. I reply to all the comments. If you're in the live or the non-live, don't forget to smash a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can see when I'm live again. I'm definitely going to try to be live again tonight because I wanted to bring some more in-depth scouting reports because there are quite a few players that we have been scouting over the last 2.5 months, and it's changing, guys. I think we've been scouting two sets of players, and that's in context with the possibility of us getting Europa League, or if we don't get Europa League. I think there's going to be two types of lists for the players that are going to come into the club. There's going to be a list that might feature 7 to 8 players that we're probably going to sign, 7 to 8 players if we get the Europa League. But I think the list drops down to like about 5 players if we don't get Europa League. I think we're going to use more youth coming into the squad if we don't get Europa League immediately. So stay tuned for that later. I think it's going to be around 10 p.m. UK time. If you guys are here, pop in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. And if there are any young players coming up and coming talents, or players that you think between 22 to 27 years old that could come into United and give them something that take us to at least upgrade us from the performances that we've had consistently this season, let me know in the comments. Let me know their names, and I will do scout reports on them for you guys. Big up to everyone joining. GB, big up to you, my brother. Power to you, Stephanie Griffith. I hope you are well as well. And big up to all of you joining on X. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your day. I hope you have a great one. It's been your boy, MarkN, MUFC Fan, with the daily update.